Time called me to photograph Yasser Arafat, and I was photographing Yasser Arafat and Ehud Barak, not together, but at the same time on one trip to the Mideast. And it was interesting because the appointment with Barak was set up well in advance. We were actually staying in Gaza City, as a matter of fact, and it was all set up where basically we went through the Erez crossing, traveled to Jerusalem, set up, and basically everything was done like clockwork. We knew the exact time we were going to get him. All our stuff went through bomb-sniffing dogs. It took 3 hours, I think, for the security. I mean, everything got x-rayed. All the batteries were pulled out of the strobes. Like, there wasn't one thing that was overlooked. It was meticulous. The car was put up on a lift, the rented van, just to make sure everything was okay. And it went off like clockwork. We then had to stay there for more than a week, waiting for the thumbs up from Arafat's people. We got a call, like, you have to go downstairs, they're waiting for you. Just like that, no warning. So we ran back downstairs, loaded all our stuff back into a van, and they drove us in a very circuitous way to PLO headquarters, actually, right? And I'm sure it's one of those things where for the week prior, his advisors were saying, the photographers were here from time, it's like, don't bother me, the photographers said, don't bother me, the photographers, don't bother me. And then finally they said, look, they've been here a week. And he said, well, bring them over. You know, it's like that kind of thing, I'm sure. And it's the middle of the night, probably like 2 in the morning by the time we got there. We pile out of our van. There are guys with guns, speaking a language I don't understand, pointing them at us. We put out all our gear out on the dirt, right there on the ground, and we start opening up cases, and all of a sudden a guy runs out from inside the building, yells something at these guys, the security guys, and they literally shrug their shoulders and just motion for us to go. Right? Like we could have anything in there, but that's kind of how it went. So we had to just run up the stairs. We run up with all our gear, and actually we go up and Diane Sawyer's leaving. Right? It's that kind of, I guess that night was the night for media or something at like 2 in the morning. Apparently he has this reputation, he'd work all night. That was like his normal daytime, was working at night. So we went up there. There was sort of a little reception room that was very cluttered that they wanted us to set up in, and I didn't really want to see. This one wasn't meant to be an environmental portrait. So I brought with, which I usually do anyway, just a black velvet background, because you can plop that up any place and just isolate the person. So that's what it was. We just hung this thing up and they were like, oh, you mean you're not going to show this room? It's like, no, 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 it's really just about him. I knew we were going to have like 2 seconds to shoot this thing. So it couldn't be simpler. It's really just a small softbox on a battery-powered unit. I think it was a 7B. And that's it. And it's just like, in a sense, it'd be like a beauty dish in a studio shoot. It's really just that, like a simple single source where you look at it and you don't go, ooh, the lighting's amazing. It just sort of simply does the job. I used a little wooden 4x5 camera for this picture, and it's so neat because people just respond differently to different cameras. You kind of don't think of it that way, but they do. And he walked into the room, and his face lit up a little bit, and he literally said in English, I've not seen a camera like that since I was a little boy. Right? So immediately it kind of caught his fancy, and he was interested. When you look at the picture, people get engaged by a large format camera in a different way. It definitely is, it sort of marshals their attention, and I think that you see it in this. He almost looks a little vulnerable and a little bit, I don't know, it's sort of frank in a way. I really like this image.